Hey everybody, welcome to Chart of the Day, and my name is Simon, and in this video we're going to talk about the current transits that are taking place for us right now, and just checking in with everybody, seeing where you are, and hopefully shedding some light on some of the way that we've maybe experienced today, and just post the eclipse, the solar eclipse that's taken place, and how this energy is now beginning to be anchored into our lives. It's going to take quite a while for this to actually fully materialize for us, but we're beginning to feel the new direction. Although it probably feels very uncertain at this stage. There's a lot of things that are open up in the air, and I'm curious to hear if everybody else is feeling the same thing or experiencing the same thing I am, where there's lots of change, there's lots of ups and downs in terms of emotional states, and on some level it almost feels as if there's to the mind, the amount of inconsistency that is being experienced through these different waves of emotions that move through us. It definitely has been difficult for me, to be honest. So I'm super curious to hear what your thoughts are and what you've been experiencing. Always feel free to write in the comments below in the chat. So we're looking at the chart of the day for the 30th of August 2017, and as you can see right at the top of the chart over there in the constellation Sagittarius, and that looks like the little arrow with the line through it, you've got the moon and Saturn. So the moon's been crossing over Saturn since yesterday, and for the 30th of August. And so it's probably been a heavy day for us, which is definitely what I felt. Very emotionally dense day. That's what I would say. And it feels to me that there's a lot of awareness that's coming up for us around sort of traumas and experiences that we've maybe had in the past that can now have a new perspective being shone onto it. So it's like we've been seeing reality, we've been experiencing reality a certain way based on this cosmological construct, this perception. And with the moon moving over Saturn, and of course this is the first time that it's moved across Saturn since the solar eclipse, this would mean that it's carrying the energy of the solar eclipse. So naturally, whatever is formulating in Saturn at this stage is going to be filled with this solar eclipse energy. So we're getting an opportunity to anchor in, like integrate, emotionally materialize the solar eclipse energy, and obviously what has begun to occur for us. Now in my life right now, just sharing out of personal interest, I'm learning definitely how to allow receptivity in my experience so that I can hold more space to be more available to nourish the other. Okay. And because of that being the case for me, I'm able to actually deepen my awareness of what I'm actually experiencing in my reality, and it's really quite cool, to be honest. It's a beautiful flowering of truth, and what has happened in the past, in terms of the past perspective, that has allowed me to actually grow through this experience is, part of my soul's journey, part of my desire here is to want to nourish, is to want to be able to be fully present in a way that can offer deep empowerment as a reflection back to whoever I'm engaging with. And so one of the ways that you can actually be there in that way is to be deeply receptive with inside of yourself, and allow yourself to almost engulf the other experience, or the other, if it were in a relationship, or in your life, just really, really open yourself up to life and embrace it. So that's what I've been moving through with my Saturn Moon conjunction. And today was one of those days where I really got the opportunity to integrate that. Now, Jupiter is the ruler of Saturn at this stage, and was currently ruling the Moon, and that's in Libra in the seventh house, or basically in the constellation Libra, and it's squaring Pluto. So, the square between Pluto and Jupiter has already reached the critical phase. In other words, 17 degrees Jupiter being at 17 degrees would have been the period where that would have been the most intense part of that square. So, we're still dealing with expectations. We're still dealing with power balances. We're still dealing with how to expand our truth, where we can honor empowerment within ourselves, but still be available for our life and for others in that way. So there's an interesting dynamic here occurring with that type of placement, where we're still trying to figure out how to individuate ourselves and how that's changing the way that we are, developing our relationships to new directions. Okay. So new information coming up through our lives right now, with other planetary alignments taking place, and that Jupiter and Libra with that Pluto is going, okay, here's some sort of psychological and emotional dynamics that appear to be or are stagnant, and here's your truth that's developing in a new way, being nourished in a new way. Does your core emotional attachment and security allow for this new space to be present within your life? And of course, these are the questions that would naturally be asked of us through these transits. Naturally speaking, and I'm super curious to hear if this is also somebody, the rest of you that might be experiencing this, but today has been one of those days in which there's been quite an intense amount of like rage or anger, or maybe even sadness. Like, obviously a lot of anger is one of the layers that is wrapped around our wounds. Sadness, disempowerment that we might have experienced through our original core trauma or wound. So with Mars being conjunct Mercury, Mercury's retrograde in Virgo at this stage. If you look at the bottom of the chart there, with that how sort of stellium that's taking place, with the Sun in Virgo at 7 degrees, Mercury in Virgo at 7, and Mars at 26 degrees Leo, right? So that Mercury's making a very strong connection to Mars at this stage. So there's two ways that I see this energy playing out. There's this intense amount of power and force around being able to liberate and break down barriers in which we have created around ourselves around ourselves, to protect us from any psychological or emotional states that have been traumatized in the past, or have been affected by in the past, right? Or we haven't been able to process those, and so therefore we've got these barriers, emotional barriers, that prevent us from, really being able to be there for the other, be there with the other, be there with life in a deep, nourishing way. So I think that with Mercury and Mars closing in there, and those symbols making a very strong connection to Saturn and Sagittarius and Uranus and Aries, and forming that very powerful fire trine, it's probably natural that we're going to cycle through these states of a lot of anger, and then states of pure like bliss, where we expand our awareness of something, and then on the other hand cycle through these deep limitations and woundedness that we carry. And it's kind of like this balancing act where we're trying to break free and heal and integrate a lot of the shadowy aspects of ourselves, the parts of us that are looking to be resolved. I mean, ultimately, that's what I see is in this chart over here, especially with the fact that Pluto is in Capricorn at this point, and that is, pushing through a lot of unresolved emotional fear. And, this has been going on in our lives since 2008. So this is a big transit for us as a collective. And within the constellation, within the archetype of Capricorn, within the dynamics of what Capricorn represents for us on a human level, it's we're going to be dealing with these types of things. There's a lot of unconscious shadow material that is coming up for us, and we can see it all over the world in different ways. It appears as if we're going mad, and on some level the ego is freaking out. Like our old sense of identity and structures that we once used as a way of living are being broken down. So it's a very, 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 very difficult time for a lot of us because of the fact that that's the case. It doesn't mean that this is going to last forever. It just means that right now we're dealing with a deconstruction of that ego definition. And of course, when you remove the ego, what you're left with is just the source. And that energy in and of itself can be incredibly consuming and rewarding at the same time. It's just that if we're not psychologically prepared to be able to handle so much and that type of stuff, then it can be very traumatic for us, which I think we do go through those cycles of just being consumed by the void, Sun in Virgo, Mercury in Virgo as an example. And naturally speaking, the Sun is opposing Neptune in Pisces. So we are flip-flopping between these two states of clarity and then confusion, and clarity and confusion, and pain and then healing. There's a lot of these dynamics that are coming up for us right now. And so my advice to everybody, or suggestion to everybody right now, is just to kind of like breathe during this experience. I think breathing is one of the most powerful ways to really move through this energy and allow the motion to move through us. In the description, I will post a video or a link to a post that was written by a guy by the name of Jeff Foster on abandonment. And I loved it so much because, we're all on some level have got these abandonment dynamics. And he was writing that when we do have or are triggered through these cycles of abandonment, and that we feel that there is no love, like the absence of love, right? We're all trying to return back to the love state, the state of union, the state of wholeness, the state of balance, whatever we want to describe it as, where there's the illusion of separation is dissolved. So ultimately we're working with that, and part of that experience is having to crack away at the crystallized form of identity that separates us from that. So naturally speaking, when we go through trauma cycles or we go through feelings of abandonment, it's natural for us to feel separated from life. It's natural for us to feel that we're disconnected from love, that it's not available for us. And if we can remind ourselves during that period of time that it is love moving through us, and we just breathe through the experience, we can actually gain an immense amount of healing through that. So I'll make sure that that's posted over there for everybody. Other than that, have a wonderful couple of days, guys, and I will speak to you soon. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.